Hello, welcome to the Return of the Oracle. So, we are going to dive into this masterclass, which is really all about bringing a balance of spiritual, personal development, as well as business growth and development. And that is what we are going to be diving into today. Specifically, we are going to be working with the spiritual side. So, we are going to be walking through what the oracle in the business looks like and how to really bring your voice to life because you are the oracle in your business and you are the wise one who knows the way. And so, we are going to bring this to life. So, let's jump in. All right, so welcome. Again, I'm just going to do a quick overview. My name is Brittany, and I am really here to help women build a profitable business through just so much more than just the strategy, right? We want to really bring in the spiritual aspect and awaken that kind of inner oracle. The way that the oracle works in, has worked in previous societies is really been like, hey, we're here to help rebuild communities. We're here to restructure society. We're here to advise and be a part of things, right? The seers were once, a foundation for not just like their connection and their insight, but also how to do it, right? Because they could tap into that divine structure. So what we do and what I personally am going to walk you through in this masterclass is really helping you dive into refining your offers and then also strengthening the way that you speak, right? So, our copy and the way that you show up with your people. We're going to be, building to that consistent 5K months and what that really looks like. Because the reality is that, it sounds easy and it is easy, but if you don't have the right foundation set up, it can actually make it very difficult because if you're trying to do one-off sessions to get to $5,000 months, that's going to take a lot of sessions. And I know you've heard this before, but what I want to do is help you break this down through kind of bridging the gap between the mystical and the practical so you can find ways to create this in your business. And it comes a little more intuitively, and you can kind of tap into your own divine structure. And then we also are going to mesh that with some strategy to really help you build a solid foundation for this. So, all right. So, the way that things have moved, we have changed the structure of the online space, right? You cannot sell your services like you did before. People are not just gobbling up offers like they used to, which is actually a good thing because we actually now have informed and empowered buyers for the most part. We have people who are being really diligent and they're using discernment to actually become part of the buying process in a more diligent fashion. And that's what we want, right? We want people who know what they want, right? Those are the buyers we want to engage with because they're the ones who are like, yep, I know what I want. Let's do this, right? That's who we're trying to attract. So when it comes back to being the oracle, you know, is really not someone who just sits back on her throne and just like, tells people what to do, right? That's not the type of coaching. That's not the type of services that we really are looking to grow in the future of business and in coaching and, even product services, right? We want to make sure that we are redirecting people back to their power. And that is all done through the buying process. When we can bring people back into their power and help them understand how to really sit with themselves. And being this is you need to also embody this, right? You need to embody that feminine aspect where you feel the same way about yourself, right? You feel connected to that feminine, you feel connected to your own power in your business. And people will see that and they will return to you time and time again because they see that you hold what it is that it's not even that you hold something they're looking for, you remind them of who they really are, right? People are looking for a remembrance, that soul connection. It's not just about the words or saying the right things anymore. It's about that deeper connection and understanding how to provide that. And also knowing that is going to come from you, right? This is going to come from you and you having that spiritual connection. So you probably have that deep calling on your heart to help people, right? It doesn't matter necessarily what it is that you're trying to help people with, whether it's back end services or you're trying to help people build full blown, lifestyles, understanding, and return to their power, right? Whether you're a healer, a coach, a mentor, whatever it is that you are really honing in on, we are really needing to kind of waken up the rest of the world. And, it seems like the market is saturated, but it really is not. Like we see it as being very saturated because we spend all of our time in it. But there is so much space for growth. There is so much space for people here. The coaching industry is not dead. I know a lot of people say that, but I think it's just time for a shift in how we support our clients, how we work with them. And even if you do, even if you are providing like an actual product or even done for you work, this all still applies because there is an amount of leadership that is required for all of those things to also take place, right? You still have to hold that space, whether it's you're holding it through the done for you work, whether you're holding it through the product and that process of bringing people through that journey. That's how you're going to be holding that. And really, what you're here to do is to provide guidance and wisdom and so that people can create an entirely new world for themselves, right? So, as I was kind of saying earlier, you become the oracle of your business in that you become the sage, that wise woman who is guiding them. And this is more than just the money. Yes, we want to absolutely work on the money aspect of our business because that is crucial to the exchange. That is how business works, right? Even though back in, the ancient times we had maybe a different way, it was more of like a trade. But with the way that things have evolved in our world, there's nothing wrong with exchanging money for services. A lot of people are very happy to exchange money for services. And this is something I want to dive into real quick. I'm kind of going on a tangent, but hang with me. So, people will spend money on a brand new iPhone, right? They will find a way because they believe that's something that they need, right? And that so we just have to, it's our job to communicate. And it's not about convincing people that they need something, it's about showing them that this is actually important, right? And the thing too is that most of the time, when you are just kind of honest and being open about what it is that you offer, your products, those sorts of things, and you're being very authentic in your voice, how you present it, you're almost like documenting your style and your life. And not that you have to share your whole life online, but the more that you are rooted into that, it will make people see, like, oh, okay, yeah, she has that, right? And so that's something that, is fulfilling for me too. And so it becomes less of a decision and more of just like a, yeah, right? It becomes so much easier because it's more of a devotion on your end than it is like I need to have this fulfill something for me, right? If you're trying to fill that void, that's where that money wound comes from, right? So we're not trying to fill voids here because you're already whole. We are just simply reframing things and allowing money to be an exchange. Okay. So, in a traditional spiritual sense, there is always a sacrifice. And this is not martyrdom, by the way. This is not martyrdom. So, what we are doing is we are stepping out of this like martyrdom phase of life where like women have to sacrifice themselves and bring people in, right? Like, or you have to sacrifice yourself for others. That's not what this is about. This is about understanding that there is a give and a take. That's what the sacrifice is that they are going to sacrifice some of their money, right? Their well earned money for your services, whatever they are. And so that is the sacrifice. Just like you have sacrificed something to provide all of this for your soul tribe, right? You're out here providing a service, you're out here giving away free content, you're trying to show them, right? And lead them to this path of like, hey, this is what you want, this is how you get it. So you have already created that sacrifice. There is nothing wrong with them sacrificing that money. And the reality is when that is done in devotion, when that sacrifice is done in both directions, where it's very like, oh yeah, this just clicks, right? It's more of a knowing than it is like a I have to do this, right? There's less obligation that comes from both sides. It's just a simple like almost where your body exhales knowing that you're in the right place. So there is always going to be the sacrifice, but that sacrifice can actually be regenerative when it is done in that devotion. And that's kind of what I was trying to illustrate is just that it becomes regenerative, right? That money builds and then gives back and that more money comes in, right? It creates a flow as opposed to it being so like it comes in and stays, right? Money is built to flow. So, what we're really diving into here is bringing spirit back into business, right? Bringing your spirit and bringing the divine back into how we do business because there has been a lot of the convincing, pushing, trying to get people to do things because it's what you need. And it's very one sided. And that's not the type of business that most people really want. You know, obviously it had worked in the past, but I'm not going to say it was right. Right. And we learn from that and we move forward. And so here we are building and returning to a balance of a more natural way of things where we are adding that feminine element back in. We are creating more of that connection in our business and we're allowing ourselves to dive into more depth and more service. And the money becomes the beautiful byproduct, right? Your ability to hold and cherish and receive money and then also go and spend money other places, it becomes a very fluid act. And it's so much easier for all of us to really hold that space, right? And so I want to touch on one more thing before we go on to the next piece. You have all of the power you need. Like, this is something that I think people really, really, really miss is because I think people misunderstand what power actually is, right? Power is not you controlling others. Power is a return to the self. It is understanding and acting in your own frequency, holding your own while still taking accountability for all of the things, right? You take accountability for your actions, your truth, your knowledge, what you do with that. You take accountability for that. Beyond that, let other people make their own choices, right? Let people have their own decisions when it comes to even sometimes we, get upset because people don't buy from us. Good. That's okay. That's a good thing. That means that you are you're not missing anything if someone isn't purchasing from you or if someone decides that it's not the right thing. Good. That means you're standing in your power and you are allowing them to move to somewhere where they feel is better equipped for them. Just like then, that makes gives you space to bring in clients and bring in people and understanding of who it is that you really want to work with, right? This is all just a process of learning. This is a journey in and of itself. So, So there really is a deep shift happening right now in the way that we're approaching sales and marketing. I think you guys actually already all know all of this. And we know that it's no longer about the pressure and like the forcing and, making it difficult and the performance aspects. And we're really being called to ground more of our creativity and our intuition and our soul led expression. That is kind of like who we really are, right? And we're bringing those things into the strategies, right? Because just because the old way was a little overridden by ego and performance doesn't mean that some of it doesn't hold good value, right? There are things that are sacred in the strategies and the systems that we can build into our businesses. So it's important to remember that we can still build upon the old and just refine it and change how we use it. So we can step into more of our own power and then, the ripple effect of allowing others to see the power within themselves. So they can make decisions about how to move forward, right? And who they want to work with, how they want to do that, right? And opening up that space for them. So I want to make sure we touch on the fact that this doesn't mean that your business has to be like a very spiritual space. You don't necessarily have to be a healer or, a Reiki master or anything like that. You can absolutely be someone who is more practical. But when we bring this intuitive aspect just into the back end of your business, it is going to change how you communicate, how you sell, and how you share your work and how you create your content, your offers, and your client experiences. So they feel more magnetic and authentic because they are rooted in the service that your soul is here to bring, right? And then we blend that with that structure, right? So we bring that magnetism and that soul essence and we blend it with the structure and the marketing that actually becomes a little bit more of a storytelling or a documentation, right? You become the leader by example because of how you speak, how you teach, how you hold space for people, right? So we are here to really become the initiators for for people, right? We're here to initiate others into what they really need and helping them recognize that this is what they actually need because most people out there they they do know what they want but they don't always know what they need, and so we have to bridge the gap between the two, right? That is our job, to help them understand that while this is what they want, this is something that is going to help them get there, right? Because very often it's not just so plain, right? There are multiple layers to everything in the individual's life. If you're trying to shape the way that they see themselves or bring back their confidence and or do deep healing work with them, right? You understand. And so we need to also show that there are different layers that are going to help to get them where they need to be. It's not just so plain and simple. And you know what? I wish it was plain and simple, but we need to be aware of the depth because look, we've all been through this, right? We've all been through our own healing journeys. We've all been through our own spiritual things. Like we all, for the most part, if you're here, you have your own kind of spiritual practice. And what I really want you to touch on is understanding like how you got here, right? You got here through diving through all those different layers, right? Whether it was the processes, whether it was the space that you gave yourself, the rhythms that you created, the the deep healing containers for yourself, right? Those spaces you created for yourself to allow yourself, and even where you educated yourself to allow yourself to move through some of these things. We have to package that as a whole because a you're not just a practitioner. You are a visionary because you can see where things need to be and you're just needing to move people through that process so they can, because they have the same vision as you just have to walk them through that process to get them there, right? And so when we walk through this as like a visionary, your sales and your marketing become more of a devotion and less of like, I need something to come from this, right? It becomes less of a means to an end and it becomes a journey, right? Because we are just peeling back all of those layers. So, what this is really about is coming back into reconnecting with yourself. Okay, there's so much noise out in the world. And trust me, like I'm part of that noise, right? You're in this class right now, you're talking with me, you're listening to all my ideas, right? Again, more noise. But what I want to teach you in here is how to specifically sit down and walk through yourself. I want you to be able to come back to yourself to understand if a strategy is going to work with you and if it's going to really benefit your business, right? There is you're going to need to be able to focus on reconnecting to yourself and that divine essence, and not just of you, but of your business. And so you probably are feeling like either silenced, misunderstood, because you're like, I'm not seeing the results that I want. You're not getting where you want to be. You're not even, maybe even breaking even with your business right now. And that's probably really frustrating. But something that I really want to amplify, especially in this first section of this masterclass, is to come back to the self. Okay. To come back to you, remember who you are, why you're doing this, and really ground back into you. Okay. Because honestly, I can tell you, anyone can tell you all the different strategies. And if you're not grounded in who you are, what you're doing, and who you are really here to help, those are going to just fall away because there's going to be a lack of clarity, right? And so it's not necessarily being about one clarity and then forever you're good. It's about returning, right? We return constantly. And as we evolve, we need to be able to return. So I'm going to give you this process to help you return to yourself systematically, right? And we're going to do this through connecting to our intuition, through connecting to our guides and our angels, okay? This is how you are going to learn how to discern in your own business what is right for you and become more of a leader in your own business as opposed to following all of the strategies from other people, piecing this all together from, random free events or, all the different, guides and everything that we have online where we're just like intaking all this different information and really all it's doing is watering you down and probably overwhelming your nervous system. It's overwhelming your mind. And it's quite frankly not really helping you solidify that intuitive and that soul connection with yourself. So the first aspect of this I'm going to really dive into is spiritual stewardship. Okay. So we are the stewards of our business, and how we bring this together is through connecting with spirit, bringing spirit into our business, rituals, depending on what your belief system is, prayer, journaling. Of course, you can use meditation, but really, this is also learning how to bring trust and surrender and faith into your business and become more a co creator with the divine. And that brings in such a different level of connection to your business. And it really holds a different ground for you. Okay. I don't know if you already have a spiritual process. I am not here to tell you that what you're doing is wrong. I want you to absolutely hold the spiritual process that you already have. I would like you to just weave this in to what you already know. So, we are going to be slowing down. Okay. The oracle takes time to sit at her altar. She takes time to commune with her angels and source and the divine, whatever you want to call it. Right? Allow you to have a partnership, because a lot of this too is that we can feel very alone in our businesses. And so we reach for all this other information when really all we need to be doing is going within us, okay? Because how the intuitive connection works a lot of times is your mind filters all the information, right? You gather information, you learn. And then with that, when you get intuitive hits, when you are working with spirit, spirit is going to pull on those little nuggets of information. So if you are already pretty steeped in any kind of strategy, you already have a decent foundation for what you should be doing if you connect back in. You just have to be willing to trust it. And that is going to be the hard part. But you need to be able to step back into yourself and come home to yourself and create space to hear that soul level that is talking to you already, that spirit that is coming through saying, hey, what about trying this? Even if it doesn't always make sense, because while the strategies are there because they work, sometimes it doesn't mean that you have to do it exactly in that order. You can reorder things and still allow for the space of all of this to come through, okay? So, this is really one of the most beautiful ways that you can really dive into expanding your business. So, it doesn't matter if you're a beginner or if you are, very well honed mystic, if you're someone who's like, yeah, I got this. But the connection remains important. And this is something that every single day I commune every single day with my guides or my angels. Um, for this masterclass, I really want to focus on the angels. As part of the spiritual hierarchy, because there actually is a spiritual hierarchy, it's not that there's it's not meant in a downward truffle, uh, downward truffle. It's not meant in a in where one's better than the other. It's not like that. It's more of um levels of connection to source. So source is here, angels are here, and then other light beings kind of filter out, right? So even humans are part of the angelic realm and part of source. It's just they're layered out a little bit, right? They're not quite so tight to source or the divine. They're a little further out. So just a thicker, there's a thicker wall, right? The veil is a little thicker between us and the divine versus the angels and the divine, right? Because the angels are literally the voices of, God or source or divine, whatever you would like to call it. So with that, we are going to be diving into the angelic work. So angels, as I kind of previously said, that, you know, we're a part of the angelic hierarchy. And this is something that I have been studying for years. I take my spiritual study very, very diligently. I love spending time in the like going down all the rabbit holes of the occult, the different layers. So I've done research. I follow a mentor who is like deep into the different layers and the hierarchies. I've done research and I follow anthroposophy as well as theosophy, and really diving into different levels of the work, as well as even like, and then the difference between, you know, Western spiritual world and the Eastern traditions, right? And really forming a grounded perspective, bringing all of those pieces together. And the angels are one of those pieces that I have found that you absolutely can use in such a beautiful way. Um, they can bring in and access, oh my gosh, what they are capable of doing in this physical world still sometimes surprises me. They can absolutely create shifts for you intuitively. They can drop downloads to you very easily. They can create opportunities for you. And it's just amazing what they have done in my life for me. So I really am a huge advocate of the angels because they are a huge advocate for humans. And this includes archangels, but I do kind of look at the angelic realm as being an energetic layer, not necessarily just as individuals. They kind of reside as this beautiful light and this beautiful energy that is here to also be a steward for us, right? So they're beautiful energy to work with. Okay. And now we're going to talk about how to access them. Okay. So your heart space is absolutely the access point for the angelic realm. This point here is the anchor. Okay, we have in the physical body, there are additional chakras and energy centers outside of the body, right? But in the physical body, we have the heart space, and we have 3 energy centers above, we have 3 energy centers below. Okay, so your heart space is literally where we are anchored in truth. It is where the most accurate timeline for you lives, and it is the source of your inward connection. So a lot of people think that we have to look outward, right? We look outward to everything, right? For answers, to see things, right? Because we are physical beings, so we look to the physical. But where the angels and your heart energy really thrives is that inward connection. When you go here and you just hold your heart, and you, instead of being in your head, you drop your focus into your heart. And this is actually going to feel like a physical shift, okay? You can shift your energy from your head to your heart. So what you do is you literally imagine just all the energy draining out of your head, and it all lands in your heart space. And I want you to imagine a torch lighting in your heart space. That is where you're connecting into your heart. That is where you are getting the most accurate. This is different than emotion. Okay. This is when we are simply in our physical body. We are actually pretty neutral in this space. And that helps because when you drop out of the head, it stops the stories and it allows you to steep in just in your physical heart. Okay. All right. So the other aspect of building a relationship with your angels is building the deep faith. Okay. When you feel like you have something on your side, right? And you feel like you are connected, there is so much more space for you to do the things that you know you need to do, right? You have that level of faith and trust in yourself because you're like, cool, I got this, right? Because you know that you have the backup to do this, right? You have the wherewithal and the resources, being your guides and angels and your physical reality, right? You have the resources to handle things in your life. So what we really need to be doing is coming into a relationship with the divine. And the angels help us with this because I honestly, as far as I have seen so many people come in the spiritual sense of themselves as people, I can still see that they have complicated relationships with the divine because most of it is tied to the mother and the father wound. And I'm just being really plain about it because those are the patterns that I have seen over and over and over again with all of my clients. I see this in every single space, whether it's the divine feminine aspect or the divine masculine. And source embodies both. Okay. Source lives, it holds both, it holds all. Source is love and unconditional, right? So when you are looking at your relationship with the divine, with the universe, we think like, okay, we want the universe to save us. We want the world to, come in and just give us what we need in our business. Well, the reality is that we need to hold that divine essence, and the angels help us bridge that gap because they also they have more of the ability to hold personality. So they can hold the divine feminine and they can also hold the divine masculine, right? So that's why we have some like archangels feel very feminine and some feel very masculine, right? Like Archangel Michael, for example, it feels masculine, although it's just that's the energy that he takes, or that energy is to help kind of support and hold us and walk us through some of these, kind of parental dynamics. And I know this sounds silly because we're like, yeah, we've all, walked through and probably dealt with so many different layers of our relationships with our parental figures, right? And this isn't necessarily just about gender. This is just about creating that balance. Like, you need to redefine your connection with the divine and not look at it like a savior, but as an energy to be walked with. Okay. That's what the angels do. They help us understand how to walk with the divine and hold that space within you to create balance. Okay. Because ultimately, you are here to be your own advocate and your own steward. You are here to be the guidance, support, and the unconditional love for yourself. But you can do this through connecting with the angels. And this doesn't mean you like end up alone. This is just you holding that anchor for yourself and then knowing that you can go out and find the resources that you need, giving yourself, looking for the opportunities and helping you see how to move through life in a more present state. And that is what the angels do for you. So now it's time to be a little curious. I know this was a lot and I know that was really deep, but the point is that I really want to make sure that you have a good foundation. Like, I'm not really the person who is going to like let's just gloss over this stuff. And honestly, I could have gone a lot deeper with that, but I wanted to be respectful of your time as well. So this is really about being curious, okay? It's about play, it's about having fun. And I think a lot of people forget that in their business. Um, don't get me wrong, it is serious. What we do is very transformative. The work that we do is here to help people deliver themselves, right? And to show them a path or to help them walk a path where, in partnership, even. And so, what I want you to do is, I want you to take these questions and I want you to write them down just on a piece of paper or on a journal. You don't have to do this right now. You can always come back to this. What I want you to do is I want you to write all these down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through an angelic connection and what that intuitive process looks like for connecting with your guides. This is a very step-by-step thing. This is something that I have created based off of my own connection and really created something that was tangible, because a lot of people talk about, connection, but they really don't know how they connect. They don't know what that process looks like. They don't always know what it is they're connecting to. And so I have created this process to be, one, very intentional about what it is that you're connecting to, creating a beautiful process for yourself of, and feel free to modify this a little bit. I do want you to always use the angels first, because they become a layer of protection when you are connecting, but you can adjust this a little bit if you already even have your own spiritual practice for connecting intuitively. But I want you to take these 4 questions that are here, and I'm going to walk you through the ritual. Okay, so this is a beautiful ritual to help you dive into what it is that you need to be doing. Okay, and this is going to be the last step, but what I want you to do is, if you're willing to, take a few minutes with me, and we're going to finish this off with this beautiful connection. So you can sit back and relax. You can, I I think it would be better if you were sitting as opposed to lying down, because I know sometimes when I get really relaxed, I like just fall asleep. So this really helps to just breathe in and sit comfortably, find a spot where you're good, but you're also supported. And I want you to close your eyes when you're ready. And I want you to breathe. We're going to do 3 deep breaths. We're going to breathe in through your nose and then out through your mouth. So we'll begin now. So first one, breathe in through your nose, deep where your belly fills, and then out through your mouth and the belly contracts. We're going to do 2 more. So in through your nose and out through the mouth. And then the last one is in through your nose and out through the mouth. So now you are going to take your hands. You can keep your eyes closed, but if you want to watch me, you can. So you're going to take your hands above your head, and they're going to be out like this. And I want you to take them out and bring them down and push the energy down into the floor. And you can do this a couple of times if you feel that would be helpful for you. But this is just clearing your auric field. So then once you're done with that, we're going to state a little invocation, and you can put your hand on your heart for this. I allow myself to feel all of me and hold my energy in the light of the divine. Now, this part, we are going to be connecting back into the body. and opening up our channel for receiving. Okay. So, what I want you to do is I want you to hover your hand like this over each of the energy points in your body. So, I'll show you all of them. So, the first one is the top of the head. And you're just going to close your eyes and tap into this energy point. I want you to notice if you feel anything physical like heat coming off of your hand or the top of your head. If you have any feelings that come up, any body sensations. And here we're just listening, we're not trying to change anything. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing for our third eye. So you're going to just hover your hand just off of your forehead between your eyes. And we're going to do the same thing. Just tune into that energy center. If you see colors, if you close your eyes, if you feel anything in your body. Okay, so now we're going to move into the throat. Same thing, we're going to just hover the hand maybe about a half inch off the throat. And I just want you to sit in observance. How does your throat feel? Does it feel tight? Does it feel open? If you do feel tension, you're welcome to breathe into any of these spaces. But really, I want you to pay attention and just observe. Okay, next is going to be the heart space. So this is like, there's your sternum. It's right over your sternum. I'm just holding here, noticing any feelings, any sensations, tension, excitement. And then the next is going to be your solar plexus. You may already know where these are, but I just want to show people just in case they don't know. You have this right here. It's kind of like right over where your stomach would be. So you're gonna hold that space. And breathe into the space and feel into it. Do you feel any tension, any sensations? Does it feel open? And if you yawn or are like feeling tired or relaxed, that's a good thing. Means we're connecting back into the body and we're resetting and allowing your nervous system to reset. Okay, next one we are going to do is going to be your sacral chakras. This is going to be right underneath your belly button. It's like right here, kind of your womb space. So we're going to hold that. And actually, if it does feel better, like certain spots, if it feels better to physically hold it, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to just hover your hand. You can absolutely just hold that space. Sometimes those energy centers need more support. And so that connection can be physical. That's totally fine. And again, we're just holding the space. All right. And then the root chakra is right at the base of your pelvis. So you can just kind of hold it over that with the intent to over down this and just kind of hover it over that space in a very gentle way. So you can stay seated for that. I just stood up to show you. So I want you to just breathe into that space. I want you to, if you want to physically put your hand there, that's fine too. Whatever feels best for you to just be in connection with that. I want you to tell me if you see anything, or you can just take note of if you're experiencing any sensation or tightness or anything like that. All right, so now we have gone through each of our energy centers and we are really just like tuned into our physical body. I'm sure you can probably feel just a little bit different, maybe less like your mind is calmer and your physical body is just like you feel like you can feel it more. Um, so, what I want you to do is, I want you to take a few minutes. You can pause this for the sake of time. I'm going to just keep going, but pause this and write down all of the feelings and the sensations and the insights. Like if you saw colors, if you saw whatever, it doesn't have to make sense. I just want you to write down everything that kind of came up for you, things that were really like noticeable for you. And if there were feelings that came up, or if you did have thoughts that kind of broke through, I want you to write them all down, the ones that were really potent for you, okay? And once you have them all written down, I want you to take a minute to hold your heart with your eyes closed. And what we're doing is we are just accepting and holding and allowing all of these thoughts and feelings to just be with us, because we are not here to banish anything. We're not here to say that what we think and what we feel and who we are is wrong. We are here to simply allow ourselves to be present with ourselves. Okay. And that presence and that attention that we give to it is what allows it to move, right? We don't have to do anything. We don't have to attach a story. We can simply just let it be. So now what I want you to do is I want you to imagine this beautiful white sparkling light coming down through the top of your head. And it's going to come down through your face and down through your throat. And this is inside your physical body. This is also going to be outside of you. So if you like to imagine it kind of being sparkly rain, that works too. We're just here connecting into the divine. We're allowing the white sparkling light to come down through your bodies, down into your heart space, and through your arms and your fingers, down into your heart again, and then down into your solar plexus and your sacrum, and down into your root. And then we are going to allow it to move down into our hips and out through our thighs and our knees and our legs, bottom of your calves, all the way down to your feet. And you're going to connect that white, beautiful light. You're going to just imagine it going all the way to the core of the earth, like you're standing on the earth, and it just continues to flow all the way through you from above your head, all the way down into the core of the earth. And you're going to take a deep breath here, in through your nose and out through your mouth slowly. So here, what I want you to do is I just simply want you to ask to connect with your angels. And they are the facilitators. So, something I did not say earlier is that the angels are the facilitators for bringing in any ancestors. They can bring in any additional guides or spiritual support, but they bring them in, and that is the level of protection. Okay. So you can now ask to commune with your angels and bring in any connections that are needed to support you. And then here is where we're going to insert those 4 questions. So you can open your eyes and you can just write down if you get answers to each of those questions. Okay. This is the moment to do that. And I just want you to not think about the answer. Okay. I want you to really if you struggle with your brain kind of taking over, I want you to pull back into your heart, physically put your left hand on your heart if you're right handed, and you can write with your right hand or the opposite. And I want you to just really feel the answers. Okay. And if you want to give yourself some space, you can do this later too, but sometimes the answers will come a little later. But I want you to just trust and write down the answers to each of those 4 questions that we talked about previously on the previous page. Just start writing. You don't need to be overly stressed. This isn't about controlling. This is about allowing. This is coming into a state of surrender. Okay, so now we are going to really, you can pause this because you probably need more time than I'm going to give you to really sit with these answers. So go ahead and pause this, take your time with it. And then when you unpause it, we're going to, finish and wrap this section up. So you're going to write down everything you get. Even if you get the answers to those questions, I want you to write down anything else that you see, you think, you feel, you hear, anything that comes through. I just want you to write it all down, because what you're going to do later is you're going to go back through everything and you are going to sit and reread everything that you wrote, and you're going to pick out the stuff that stands out to you. You're going to feel a connection to the truth, and you're going to pick out those sections. I want you to either circle it or highlight it. There's going to be some stuff that probably doesn't resonate, but I want you to pick out the stuff that does. And those are your answers. So now what I want you to do is, now that you're done writing everything down, I want you to take a deep breath. And I want you to put your hand on your heart and say, I now close the channel. Thank you. And that's it. If you would like to, you can take your hands again and just do this, sweep down and clear your auric field. And that is a beautiful connection process. It is not going to be the simplest process. This is intentionally built a specific way because there is the process of you needing to be with your human self and then also allowing that spirit to come through. Okay, so if you're not someone who is an active individual who connects like this all the time, this process is absolutely necessary, and please don't skip steps. Please don't skip steps. I tried, and then the information that you're going to get is going to be a little wonkier. And it's going to take you some time to get used to this. So don't be hard on yourself. This is just about being playful and being curious. You are safe with the angels. They are there to hold you and protect you. There's no kind of like, you don't need to worry about like trickster energy or anything. If you have any previous worries with that, that is why I hold you through this process with the angels, because they are absolute. So I can't wait to jump into the next section with you. But at one final closing, I just wanted to say that this is part of what I teach with all of my clients. The strategy is beautiful. I teach the strategy, of course, to all my business clients, but like anyone who works with me gets this level, and we go way deeper than this. We go through guided journeys, we go through connecting into your soul work to get access to, I call them parallel lives because past lives don't really work for me. I don't believe that it works that way, because everything kind of coexists at the same time. So really, we're just tapping into different timelines. Um, we do so much of the deep work. And this is where I have found, one, you get the most subconscious rewiring. You get the most ease and actual integration of energy. So it becomes easier for you to access certain states for creating content. You can do this exact same process when you open this up, create content from here. You can create your offers from here. You can even honestly find your own divine strategies in here. There is a deep level of connection that you can access and bring into your business. And this is just the surface. So I want you to know that there is always so much depth that can be brought in. And when you find that depth in within yourself, that it becomes that authentic and that magnetic aspect of yourself. And that is where you're going to watch your business flourish, because you are able to access yourself, to hold yourself through the hard times, to speak kinder to yourself, to love yourself, to be patient with the process that is the journey of entrepreneurship, right? And that is something that most people really do struggle with, is being patient, trusting the process, and also understanding that you are absolute in your existence. Your existence is needed and necessary, and you exist not just for a reason, but because you are here to live. And so I am going to close this out, and I just wanted to say thank you for your time today. I know this is long, and I want you to understand that I do value your time, and I'm not going to share something with you that isn't absolutely necessary, because I do know that this stuff is what you really need. To each of these sections that I'm going to be writing or creating for you is what you need to really, really just catapult yourself into your full potential and where you really, really want to be, right? Not just about the money, but like that vision that you hold, that's where you want to be. And this is going to get you there. So, with that said, thank you again, and many blessings and all my love.